Good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It is coming to you live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, detained former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta awaits U.S. immigration decision on his petition seeking to extend his stay and avoid extradition to Ghana. Tonight we examine the legal path available to him. And later, lawyer for rival Boko chief Alhaji Asiedu-Dartey sued the Interior Ministry and the National Investigations Bureau over his continued detention. We'll be finding out where exactly he is and what line of action the parties intend to take. We are live around the world on 3news.com. That's our website. We are streaming there and on YouTube and on Facebook. So be a part of this show and let your voice be heard on the many subjects we have for you this evening. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Now let's bring you some news summaries with Crystal Success Trevor.
We begin with the minority. They are saying the Ghana security situation has deteriorated sharply, forcing citizens to sleep with one eye open just 1 year into President John Mahama's renewed mandate. Citing figures acknowledged by the Interior Minister, the Deputy Minority Leader, Patricia P.J., said that as of July 2025, the country had recorded about 628 cases of armed robbery and 340 murders involving illicit firearms, an alarming toll within only half a year, and this is according to the minority. The Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohono, has cautioned officers of the Ghana Police Service to ensure that law enforcement is carried out with full respect for human rights and the rule of law, as the service intensifies its operations nationwide. Speaking at the handing over ceremony of 100 new police vehicles on Thursday earlier today, the IGP acknowledged the government's continued investment in the police service, describing it as a demonstration of confidence in its leadership and mission, which must be matched with professionalism and restraint in policing. President John Dramani Mahama has disclosed that the cabinet is currently considering reforms to Ghana's TV license regime, which plans to submit proposed amendments to Parliament after internal deliberations are concluded. The president made this announcement during a visit to the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation earlier today as part of his engagement with key state institutions. He said the government is examining options to replace the existing TV license with the public media levy aimed at improving funding for public broadcasters. And finally, we stay with the New Patriotic Party because a large group of them, parliamentary candidates from the 2024 general elections, has publicly declared its support for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia ahead of the party's presidential primaries, which is scheduled for January 31 this year. The endorsement, announced at a press conference today, further consolidates internal backing for Dr. Bawumia, who is the MPP's 2024 presidential candidate and is seeking re-election to lead the party into the 2024 general elections. The former parliamentary candidate described the collective decision as a clear demonstration of unity and cohesion within the party, noting that the majority of the frontline representatives selected by the NPP in 2024 are all now rallying behind a single candidate. And that'll be it for the news summaries here on 3FM. We have all of this on our website, 3news.com. Do well to always visit there. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much. Let's settle for the details of the stories we have for you this evening. And we are starting from the big one that many of you have been talking about, having to do with former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, lawyers for Ghana's former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta are seeking an extension of his stay in the United States as they work to block any move to extradite him to Ghana or to face criminal prosecution. Mr. Ofori-Atta is currently in the custody of the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Many of you will know it as ICE, following concerns over his immigration status. In a statement, his lawyers, Minka Premo Osebonsu, Bruce Kafling, and Park
wanted to go to the United States. And we have seen President Trump's made it very clear that people have been abusing our migration system for many, many years, to the point where we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the United States illegally. And that's what this is about. It's about the president's priority and why we have focused on it around the world.
The process of evaluating an extradition request is on the American side is very well established, and it is not generally very quick. And so we receive a request. It goes through the various mechanisms that we have to undertake, but the door is always open for those requests. There's no individual case that can be prejudged because U.S. judges make decisions on this, and they are, of course, a separate branch of government. So they have the ability to approve or disapprove a request, but we're always open to that kind of collaboration. Absolutely.
And you heard U.S. officials at the U.S. Embassy here in Ghana talking about the fact that they are willing to assist Ghana bring back Ken Ofori-Atta to the jurisdiction to face trial for his role in some corruption and corruption-related matters that have been leveled against him. However, his recent detention by ICE in the United States has no correlation whatsoever to Ghana's interest in getting him back to Ghana. Interestingly, many other individuals in the country have also been expressing thoughts on this recent news of his detention. That's private legal practitioner, for instance, Martin Asiedu-Dartey says the former finance minister's detention by ICE on its own does not automatically guarantee extradition to Ghana.
It's a small good step. In law, you can be in custody, but the journey it will take for them to release him to us, it's a very complex one, the extradition one. I'm afraid if we are using extradition, it will be too soon to have good news because they are going to go to court. That's going to be a very bloody battle. Ofori-Atta doesn't look like he wants to come, without a fight. So the court processes, etc., are going to take us years. So it's not an easy fight unless at any point in time, he finally throws in the towel and says he wants to come. But if he doesn't want to come and he wants us to go through due process to bring him, it's not 1 or 2 or 3 months matter. Even the date they will appear in court, like to start the case itself, it will take months. They just don't start like that. In America, there are long queues. Sometimes in Ghana, we make opinions and it looks like we are the only people who don't get corrupt people jailed in 5 months, 2 months, etc. In America, there's a queue. For your case, you can be arrested today, but the case will not be heard immediately.
And you heard private legal practitioner Martin Asiedu-Dartey sharing his thoughts on the news of Ken Ofori-Atta's detention in the United States. Founding president of Imani Africa, that's a Center for Policy and Education, Franklin Kujo, has however blamed Mr. Ofori-Atta's legal team in Ghana for what he describes as the former minister's current predicament.
Again, this is the problem I have with my good friend Ken Ofori-Atta. He's brought all of this onto himself. He should, once ICE speaks you up, right, and then detains you, your case now becomes a very, you've heightened your problem, because right now, ICE is treating you as some sort of a criminal, right? Like you probably will stay your visa, you're not going to apply. And in the process of applying, they'll say, you are facing some issues back home. They'll bangle you and throw you back here. He better praise that his lawyers are up to the game, because Trump don't play. They don't play. Once they say you are cited for criminal issues in Ghana, your problems have multiplied by several fold. And I think I blame his lawyers. They badly advised him. Everybody who spoke on his behalf was badly advising him. He should have come to Ghana long ago rather than being detained by ICE.
And that is Franklin Kujo, who is president of Imani Africa. Let's go to the phone lines now. Professor Kwejo Appiagyei-Etua is a professor of law, and he's joined us for a quick chat on this. Prof, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for your time and good evening.
Many happy returns and thanks for having me.
Right. Does the detention of the former finance minister, following the interest that Ghana has expressed in getting him back, does this detention further Ghana's cause, or because of the non-relation to his detention, we probably would have to keep hope alive that this could inure to our benefit as a country?
It could be a yes or no answer. So as it stands, the two processes or the two events are completely unrelated. One relates to an offense that Mr. Kamfarata is alleged to have committed in Ghana, and therefore extradition is being sought to bring him to the country to face justice. On the other hand, this particular incident, his detention in the U.S., is related to his visa expiration of the visa which he holds in the U.S. So the two are not related in any way.
Right, but let's separate them and focus now on the detention. So we know that he's currently being held. We are told his legal team in the U.S. is doing what they can, or are doing what they can to get him released. But could Ghana take advantage of that, because we have already notified the U.S. Government that we are interested in, or he is a person of interest in Ghana? Let's just say they were trying to look for him out of the millions living in the United States. And then following this fact that he has been now found and detained, although non-related to us, could we say, based on that, kindly then bring him to the country?
The answer is that, number one, the deportation process, if it should continue, will not be affected by, or is not related to, the process that the Ghanaian government has started in the U.S. court for his extradition. But the deportation will completely bring to an end or truncate the extradition process if he has to be deported. So deportation is related to the visa issue. Extradition is related to the crime he's alleged to have committed in Ghana. And so when if he has to be deported, then the extradition process will no more continue. And so when he arrives in the country, definitely he is within the jurisdiction of Ghana. So he can be easily arrested and then taken to court. On the other hand, there is another way in which extradition processes can take place. That is, either you go through the court, which Ghana is doing now, or through diplomatic channels, where the executives in two countries can work together to ensure that the person is brought to Ghana. As things stand now, we don't have all the facts, so we don't know if probably there is a relationship where the executive in the U.S. is trying to use the deportation process to bring him to Ghana. But it's not clear if that is the case. But if the deportation should follow, then it will be another way to bring him to Ghana, and then the law will continue to deal with him while he's in the country.
Right. So from what you're saying, it could also mean that his legal team could regularize his immigration status, which is one of the reasons why he's currently under detention. And while that is going on, the extradition process would also be ongoing on the other side.
Yes, they are trying to regularize his stay. But the difficulty is that, of course, you can extend your visa period when you are in the country and your visa is about to expire. There's a process to apply for extension. But if you wait and you don't do the extension by yourself until you are arrested and detained, the likelihood of your application being successful is very, very little. So about 90% possibility of being deported will be the case. So in that case, they are fighting for an extension for him. It is possible, but in my opinion, it is very slim.
Could he choose that based on the development, if the United States, for instance, per what we are told now, the fact is that his visa is almost out or probably done and he should be out of the country. Can he choose that, okay, you just leave me at the U.S. border, I'll find another country and go to, but not necessarily to my country of origin? Is that a possibility, an outcome for Ken Ofori-Atta?
If you are detained and about to be deported, the rule normally is that you are deported to your own country. And sometimes they even accompany you to your country. So the possibility of he going outside the jurisdiction of the U.S. and going to another country doesn't look possible, or it looks very slim as an option for him.
Are there legal, so help us understand the legal thresholds that Ghana must meet to help the U.S. in this extradition process? We do need him in the country. What, beyond we writing to the U.S. to tell them that Ken Ofori-Atta is a person of interest in Ghana, what specific legal procedures do we need to follow for the extradition, not the detention now, but then the extradition that we have already requested for?
As I said, we have already decided to go to court, which is a legal process which involves the judiciary, which is another arm of government. That is a normal route that countries usually take when it comes to extradition. And it is based on the fact that there's an extradition treaty between the two countries. And then we have to check if certain conditions are met. For example, it's not a political trial, or he's not a political prisoner, and then the kind of punishment he has to face, the offense should have been the same in both countries, and so on. That is the process Ghana has taken. But the other process, which is also still available, and we don't know if Ghana is looking at that, is the diplomatic channel, which, as I said, involves the two executives, the executive arms of the two countries, doing some kind of negotiation, and then through diplomatic channels, deciding to bring the person to Ghana, for example, in this case, to face trial. So we don't know if that is being explored and if that has anything at all to do with the current deportation issue, detention and possible deportation that Mr. Ofori-Atta is facing now.
Prof, two final questions, then you take leave of us. We are grateful that you're speaking to us. What is the most likely legal outcome in the short to medium term? We know that his lawyers are pushing to ensure that he is not deported, which is something definitely he wouldn't want himself. But now that they are in the process of ensuring that he is not deported, what is the legal outcome, considering the fact that his visa is either out or about expiring?
Well, you see, the point is, when you hold a visa to be in a particular country, that guarantees you stay in that country until the visa expires. However, it is not automatic that the visa will continue to hold, and that you can continue to remain in the country. That is, if you commit an offense, for example, it automatically revoke your visa, or you may have entered the country using a wrong information to enter the country, to receive the visa to enter the country, or there is some kind of national security issues involved. In that case, your visa will automatically be questioned and it can be revoked. So in this case, that Mr. Ofori-Atta's visa has not actually expired, we don't know a number of facts, so we can just conjecture. And it could be that there is something about the visa or something else which has triggered his detention. And so that may be a basis to cause him to be detained and possibly to be deported. As for the deportation, it is very, very likely that it could be deported. But it depends on how they also decide to fight it, because they can go on appeal and so on. Of course, according to immigration practice, the one easy way in which he can extend his stay is if he applies as a refugee, claiming that he faces persecution if he comes to Ghana and so on. The moment you apply for refugee status, you are granted the right to stay in the country until your refugee application is heard. And so that is another option that he may want to take, but I'm not sure he's going to take that. I'm just saying that according to U.S. immigration rules, that's one
option.
way available to people who may face deportation. They can apply for refugee status. Of course, the refugee process will have to be triggered, and they will check if really you face persecution back in your country.
Right, and that dovetails into my final question, which would be that Ghana has had very good relations with the U.S. In the last few months. The U.S. and Ghana, for instance, the U.S. granted us or exempted us from some countries they were banning. We needed assistance to transport some Ghanaian soldiers to Jamaica. The U.S. gave us a C-15 aircraft to do that. So our relationship seemed to have consolidated in the last few months. Could that, and based on what you have just said, that maybe he might want to seek asylum so he doesn't come to Ghana for prosecution. He could say he's being prosecuted in Ghana. Could the fact that first we have applied for him to be extradited, and then also the good relations we've had with the U.S. in the last few years and consolidated in the last few months, ease the process of getting him to Ghana for us based on what we have seen in the last few days?
Well, I mean, it is possible because, like I said, the diplomatic channel option is there. But sometimes it has to be triggered by the country that is seeking the extradition. So I don't know if Ghana has triggered it and what has been the response of the U.S. and whether there is any possibility that probably his detention now is related to that diplomatic process which Ghana may have triggered and which may have received a positive response from the U.S. At this moment, we don't have all the facts, so it's all if and maybe but. So if that is the case, then that could be a firm indication that he is on his way back to Ghana. But otherwise, if there is any other reason which may have caused him to also to be detained and being processed towards deportation, it will also depend on what may have triggered it. If it is not the extradition, it's not related to the extradition process. So I think we have to wait and see in the next few days. We may get more facts and we may get to know the real reason behind his detention. And then we can tell if there's any connection at all to the extradition process which the country has initiated some few weeks ago. Okay.
Professor Kwadwo Appiah-Adjei, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Pleasure.
Right, and he is a professor of law, Professor Kwadwo Appiah-Adjei, and sharing his perspectives on what he believes could be the ramifications of Ken Ofori-Atta's detention in the United States of America by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Group, that is ICE. For those of you who are just joining us, the news is that Ken Ofori-Atta is currently under detention in the United States. You would recall that he's been there for almost a year now because he left the country in January 2025. We are in January 2026, so it's just about a year since he's been there. He was there. He told the country his reason for being there was medical grounds, or was on medical grounds. He's seeking medical attention, etc. But Ghana, and based on what the OSP has been saying and some government officials, including the Attorney General, there isn't any indication that Ken Ofori-Atta wants to return to the jurisdiction, at least not while this administration is in power. However, this detention has drawn a totally different attention to whether or not Ghana can succeed in triggering this extradition that we have asked the U.S. to help us with. And we heard from U.S. officials in Ghana who have shared their position on the fact that because of the legal loopholes that we need to jump as a country, this could take some time, but they would definitely want to assist Ghana if everything is legally aligned. Now we are told that his lawyers are also ensuring or working to ensure that he does not get that deportation to the jurisdiction. So what exactly would the outcome look like? Let's speak to a constitutional lawyer who's also been following this particular issue very keenly. John Kwesen has joined us. Mr. Kwesen, good evening to you. Thank you for your time and a happy new year.
Good evening, my senior brother, and greetings to you and your colleagues.
What's your reading of all of this? We woke up, or just in the last few hours, latter part of yesterday, we heard about the detention. Today, we are told his lawyers are still pushing to ensure he is not extradited to Ghana or deported if the detention is anything to go by. And as it stands, he is also trying to ensure he doesn't come back because of the trial awaiting him in Ghana. What is your reading of all of this?
Nobody actually saw it coming. But let me just steal 1 second of your time and then duly acknowledge Professor Piaget that you just spoke to. He taught me at the faculty and I custom demands. My regards to him also. All right. Now, like I said, nobody saw it coming. Okay? All this period, the American government somewhat was in the shadows of all the happenings because they hadn't come out openly to declare their intention whether they are supporting the government of Ghana or not. So all this while they left us in the dark. And then we kept on also lambasting, hammering and criticizing BM and his government that they were not doing much. If they were, they would have brought Kenoforiata to Ghana a long time ago. But it saddens me that at this point in time, a notable person, the name of Kenoforiata, will have to go through this. It's shameful, it's backward, and nobody wished this for him. There have been several analyses, several arguments that Kenoforiata of all shouldn't have been doing it because he's more or less like the first ever finance minister, okay, to go through this. And quote and unquote, it's as if he's run away from his own country and has no intentions of coming back. The fundamental question would be that to what extent did he harm his own country? Because more people have stayed over the years. But let me say, maybe it's an area that nobody has also thought of. The NDC government, this particular regime, took everybody by surprise. The MPP that just left office, the leadership was thinking it would be business as usual. Every 4 years, or whenever there is a change in government, they think of their own colleagues. Okay, so when issues come up, criminal matters are leveled against them, it will still be the normal thing. Let's go to court. In the end, only one out of maybe 20 will be prosecuted. And that has been the trend all the way from 1992 since we entered into this republic. So this is the first time that the NDC government, beginning with, was so serious, they actually ambushed and outwitted the MPP government. And then there's this mass rush for prosecution of past government officials. And that is where Kenoforiata has also been caught in the web. And when he heard that, of course, ideally, he thought maybe let me also use technicalities and see whether I'll be able to get off the hook. Unfortunately, with the kind of allegations being leveled against him and the fact that he also played a key and central role in Nanado's government, the state was much more interested in his aspect as compared to the other functionaries, past government appointees and political targets and so on and so forth. It's normal. In politics, some of these things happen. And now one may question, how come when a new regime comes, the prosecutions are always targeted in the opposite direction and not across board? I have personally identified one major problem and challenge that I think collectively as a country, we should address that. Otherwise, it will keep on recurring every 4 years, every 8 years, and we'll still be at the same place. The fundamental problem is the aspect that despite the fact that we have a constitution in place, our system is a failed one, okay? And because we have a failed system, nobody will even be able to implement the provisions we have in the Constitution. You can always do things and get away with it. One failed system is the aspect that we are now focused on politics, okay, the party system, other than trying to collectively build a country together.
Right.
So this government will come and all the focus will be on my party. If MPP is in power, their focus is on MPP and nothing to do with Ghana as a country. You see, so they do things.
So should it be my understanding from what you're saying that we do have the laws that can ensure that we fight corruption fully and head on? We do have the laws to prevent, some of the allegations and accusations or things that previous government officials have been accused of doing. We could have prevented all of that because we have the laws. However, based on who is in power, we interpret the law differently.
Exactly, and that is the system I'm trying to talk about. You see, the laws are there, but we have bypassed the laws, or our leaders have bypassed the laws, and creating a monster of a system for us as a country. So that if the focus is now on parties, okay, MPP, NDC to be precise, then if MPP were in power, their focus is to make sure the law will protect NDC officials to the detriment of NDC. The same way when NDC is also in power, the focus is on party. So when NDC officials go wrong, or they can engage in corruption, that is the system I'm talking about. The ticket has been given to the parties and not Ghana as a country. So if this party is in power, you can steal all the money belonging to Ghana. You can collapse our country. And for the fact that you belong to the party that is in power, you are clean. That is the point I'm trying to. And the opposition, whatever they do, they are also wrong. So if you continue to do that, then it means our laws become useless.
Right.
Our laws are made to regulate, okay, and also to ensure that we do things in harmony. And that is where, at this point in time, there's nothing Kenoforata will do that will keep him in the USA. As a matter of fact, he's coming back home. Okay?
You sound confident
we are all
on
doing
that.
speculation. We are all doing speculation at this point in time because the U.S. government have not come to tell us that he's being detained for ABC. Do you get my point? But of course, we also have precedent. We have immigration laws, okay? We have international treaties, and so on and so forth. So much as the extradition request has been put in already, officially been put in by Ghana government, there has been an additional one also, which is the deportation. And as it were, if the U.S. were not interested in assisting Ghana, there was no way arresting him to begin with. But now that there has been an arrest, then it means they are giving a sort of listening ear to the government of Ghana, because we saw recently how speedily the AG and then some functionaries of government had to rise to Swedro and arrest this Abu Trika for purposes of assisting the U.S. government. And prior to that, a few months ago, we saw some four other citizens of Ghana being extradited to the USA. So, of course, with international arrangement and agreement, you don't expect one party to give with one arm, and then you will refuse to also fulfill your part of the obligation.
So you are confident. That was the question I asked Professor Etia, which was that could the recent scratch my back and scratch your back relation Ghana is having with the U.S. work in this situation?
It will work. It will work, exactly, because it doesn't augur well for you as a country, much more so when you are bigger than Ghana, that you ask Ghana to do something for you, and Ghana asks you for just something tiny. That will not affect you as a U.S. government. Why wouldn't you also do that? And in this case, the whole country, okay, or let's say higher percentage, do not have an issue with him coming back to Ghana. You see?
Right.
Now, there is a reason why, apart from the system that I have just talked about, there's another problem. In Ghana, we claim we have imported and then we are practicing democracy. But then on people, in reality, that is not what it is. Democracy will tell you that as much as possible, shy away from nepotism and cronyism. But in our part of the system, we don't mind that our family member will be given a key position to the extent that even when your own party members were saying, remove the finance minister, and another hands were tied. Right. These are some of the shortfalls and the reason why nepotism is not encouraged under democracy.
Okay.
You do all this and later you come back and you and I will have to be discussing every now and then. So maybe JM should also take some cue from it. As much as possible, he should make sure that his family members, will not get themselves involved so much. He hit his own children, his brothers, family members, and so on. As much as possible, we should take some lessons that affected Nana Addo's government moving forward.
Right, Council, thank you so much for speaking to us this evening.
Thank you, my brother.
Right, and that is constitutional lawyer John Kwesen giving us a thought or two on the big news having to do with Ken Ofori-Atta's current detention. And from both my resource persons, there is a likelihood, I could deduce from what they've said, especially Counsel John Kwesen, he's saying that let's just keep our fingers crossed because this is likely to get Ken Ofori-Atta to be brought to the jurisdiction. It will be quite a sight to see him probably in handcuffs and placed on the plane, and the plane touches down in Ghana. And there, that will be your finance minister, former finance minister, back in the jurisdiction, albeit against his will. That is possible if his lawyers are unable to get him out of the grips of ICE and also are able to ensure that his visa situation does not get untoward or does not get out of hand. If they're able to fix that problem, he's likely to remain in the United States or then leave that country and go elsewhere. As we are told, he already has a substantial number of years on his in his passport for visas for Canada and the United Kingdom. So he could go either where he wants if the U.S. is unable to deport him straight to Ghana. But it's a fluid situation. Stay with us on 92.7 and on all our sister stations as we monitor this particular story for you. Your thoughts and comments are also welcome on it on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. We are streaming this bulletin there. Do send us a message. Away from that, lawyers for rival Bawku Chief Alhaji Asiedu-Dartey have sued the Ministry of Interior and the Director General of the National Intelligence Bureau over his alleged continuous detention. His lawyers argue it is unlawful that he has been in detention for 2 weeks without access to a legal representation. Here's a report putting together all the developments regarding this.
Alhaji Asiedu-Dartey, the rival chief in the Bawku chieftaincy dispute involving the Mamprasi and Kusasis, was removed from Bawku by the Ghana Armed Forces on 24 December 2025 as part of recommendations in the Tunfor Setu II's mediation report. The report also recommended that Alhaji Asiedu-Dartey be recalled to Nalerigu by the Nayere to take up another traditional role, or he could remain in Bawku as a private citizen without laying claim to the title of Bawkunaba. But representing him in court, his legal team, led by lawyer Martin Asiedu, said his client has been detained without access to lawyer, family, and other allies.
I expect that the state is the state that took him. So look for his lawyers. Or, like I said, even if that is too much, at least basic, look for the Nairi. Look for the Nairi and inform him that, look, your son is here. After we had come on air and complained that we felt his rights were being abused. And then after, I was being told to come through protocols, right to us, etc., before I would see him. But that doesn't even solve it. Even if I wrote a letter, it doesn't solve the detention. The key thing we need now is that he be freed.
He also questioned the grounds under which Alhaji Asiedu-Dartey has been kept in detention.
He's not been told about any crime he's committed. And even if he had committed a crime, let's be very clear. You see, the Constitution is clear that if you arrest a person on grounds that he's committed an offense, right, within 48 hours, let's be very clear, within 48 hours, take that person to court so that the person too can apply for bail. Let's be very clear. Look, yes, that's the Payable number 4 versus Attorney General number 4. Take the person to court. It's the judge who will then listen to the state, whether NIB, police, national security, or which other institution.
The legal team was in court to present a habeas corpus application, but that was postponed. The presiding judge, Her Ladyship Halima El Alawa Abdul Basit, said she needed time to appreciate the facts of the case. The case has been adjourned to Monday, January 12, 2026 at 9 a.m. to determine the application.
Let's go on to some other stories this evening. The minority in Parliament has renewed its calls for a full parliamentary investigation into the controversial $214 million gold for reserve program, which Ghana is said to have lost, insisting that a thorough probe is necessary to ensure accountability. The New Patriotic Party lawmakers warned that without a comprehensive inquiry, millions of cedis in taxpayer funds could remain unaccounted for. Patricia Appiagyei, the Deputy Minority Leader, says Parliament must act to uncover the full facts surrounding the program.
Nothing exposes the government's failure better than the gold board for reserve disaster. In just 9 months, we lose $214 million. $214 million gone. That is 2.6 billion cedis. Money that could have been built, that could have built hospitals, equipped schools, and established storage facilities for farmers. Instead, it was lost in a politically connected gold scheme. Now, let us be clear. The Gold for Reserves program was the brainchild of the NPP government under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We conceptualized it, we designed it, we initiated it, and under our administration, it was managed with discipline, transparency, and accountability. The program, as we designed and implemented it, did not lose $214 million in 9 months. So what changed? The government and the people running the program. When President Mahama returned to power, he inherited a functioning program. He politicized it. He expanded it recklessly. He pleaded it, he placed it in unprepared and potentially conflict hands, and the result speaks for itself. Gold Board is not alone. The governor of Bank of Ghana must also answer serious questions. He must answer, what oversight did the bank provide? When did they become aware of losses? Why defend and deny rather than investigate? Who approved the off-takers' contracts? And critically, as someone who benefited from the Nole Prosequa.
And so that is Patricia Appiagyei, who is the Deputy Minority Leader. Meanwhile, the minority is also accusing the government of failing to adequately protect Ghanaians amid what they describe as a surge in insecurity across the country. They point to a rise in armed robberies, kidnappings, murders, and communal clashes, which they say is leaving citizens fearful and communities increasingly destabilized. According to the minority, the nation's security situation has significantly deteriorated, forcing many Ghanaians to sleep with one eye open.
But while this government burns millions on gold schemes and abandoned farms, Ghanaians sleep with one eye open. The security situation has deteriorated, transforming our once peaceful nation into fear and uncertainty. Fellow Ghanaians, 1 year into President John Mahama's renewed mandate, our country is gripped by insecurity that cannot be brushed aside with ceremonies. Ghanaians no longer feel protected in their own homes. The duty to safeguard life and property has weakened under politicized policing and neglect of security services. It is not merely resource, it is priority. A government that presides over such pervasive fear without a credible national strategy for prevention, early warning, and rapid response has failed a basic duty of protection. Kidnapping has risen sharply. Young women and men disappear. Children vanish on their way to school. We need a comprehensive national security strategy, visible results, and sustained leadership. Meanwhile, border security appears gravely weakened. Illegal arms flow across borders. Criminal gangs operate with impunity. Terror-linked arrests have occurred in the Upper East and Upper West region. The government response has been committed in meetings, but communities remain vulnerable and security forces remain under-resourced. When citizens cannot travel safely on our highways, when parents fear their children would not return home, when investors question whether Ghana can protect assets and personnel, when terrorists probe our borders, this is not merely a security failure, it is a governance crisis.
So those are the thoughts of the minority in Parliament. They were doing or giving their assessment of the 1 year of the current administration, the NDC government, and the minority in Parliament have just given a litany of problems they believe to be the order of the day since the NDC came into power. So we'll see whether government or the majority side in Parliament will be reacting or probably brush it aside as just opposition opposing or opposition doing what is expected of them to oppose the current administration. Still in the NPP though, you would know that later this month, the 31st of January, they will be electing a flag bearer, and a total of 118 parliamentary candidates of the party from the 2024 general elections have declared their unflinching support for the flag bearer. That is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is also in the race, and that will happen on the 31st of January 2026. When they meet for their delegates conference. Addressing a news conference in Accra, the group expressed strong confidence in Dr. Bawumia's leadership, describing him as the candidate best positioned to rebuild the party and reclaim political power in 2028. According to the group, former vice president has a proven track record, innovative policy vision, and transformative ideas that make him the strongest choice to lead the NPP into the future. Let's listen to them.
Mahmoud Bawumia as flag bearer of our great party, the New Patriotic Party, for the second time at the 31st January 2026 presidential primaries, and subsequently lead a party into the 2028 general elections. Ladies and gentlemen, it is true that some of us of this group have, in their individual capacities, variously supported the candidature of Dr. Bawumia as he prepared for the 2026 primaries. However, we 118 PCs who represented the New Patriotic Party for the 2024 general elections, convinced that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was not the reason nor the cause of our 2024 electoral defeat, as per the various studies conducted by the party's own Professor Michael Quay Committee, highlights of which have been provided by the General Secretary.
Away from the NPP, let's go on to some other stories now. President John Dramani Mahama has condemned the alleged attack on a Class FM reporter by personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service, describing the incident as unacceptable. The president said the attack reflects a troubling lapse in professionalism and called for the immediate reorientation of security service personnel in their interaction with journalists. During a tour of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, President John Mahama also revealed that the officers of the Ghana National Fire Service involved in the alleged attack on the reporter have been identified and interdicted. He said their actions do not reflect the values expected of security service personnel and called for the urgent need for the immediate reorientation of security personnel. Let's listen to President John Mahama when he visited the GBC earlier today.
Well, my views on that are known. I'm a journalist by training, and so there's no way we countenance, the continued assault on journalists. So we've been in touch with the Ghana Journalists Association on these issues. We put them in touch with the security services. We need a reorientation of many of our security personnel to understand that just as they're doing their job of providing peace and safety, journalists are also doing their job of informing the people as to what is happening. So they're not antagonistic to each other. Indeed, they are both serving the same purpose. Yeah, so we're working on it. But occasionally these things will come up. But when they come, they must be dealt with, as firmly as possible. The Minister of Government Communication has taken it up. I think the officers have been identified, they've been interdicted, and an investigation is ongoing. But we won't countenance assault on journalists.
And that's President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. And that's it for this segment of the show. Let's bring you what's happening in the world of sports now. I am Martin Asiedu-Dartey.
Welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Andrew Sifa Bamfo. Let's start off from the 2025 African Cup of Nations because the quarterfinals is set to begin on Friday. Host nation Morocco will be facing Cameroon, while Mali will square off against Senegal. Algeria also up against Nigeria, while Ivory Coast will lock horns with Egypt. Now, ahead of Morocco versus Cameroon, my colleague Beleshen, who has been speaking to Moroccan journalists in Morocco, Ayman Belkouha, and Cameroonian journalists, they have shared their thoughts on what they do expect ahead of that crunch encounter. So we'll do our best to bring you the voice of Moroccan journalists and then also the Cameroonian journalists who have been speaking ahead of that all-important game between Cameroon and then host nation Morocco and then Cameroon, who will be squaring off later. And so we are checking to see if we can bring you the voice of the journalists who have been speaking ahead of that match.
Tomorrow's game is going to be a tough game for both teams, Morocco and also Cameroon. Morocco, of course, will play in his stadium with his fans, but also the Cameroon have the ambition to win this game, win the host of the competition is gonna be a difficult thing, but also a good thing for the Cameroon to go in the after game. So between Morocco and Cameroon, I can say that 50% for each other. We cannot say that Morocco gonna win or Cameroon gonna win. It's gonna be a tough game, as I said, and the better one gonna score and win the game for sure.
I think it's going to be a very, very tight one. It's going to be a very, very tight one. Morocco, as the host nation, they'll be playing with the 12th man. That is the crowd pushing them. But the problem is if in the first 25 minutes they don't score, then that doubt begins to creep in into the Moroccan team. That is what's happening with them. Let's take, for example, the last game they played against Tanzania. That is exactly what happened. And Tanzania is not Cameroon. Cameroon is going to be a very big headache for them because Cameroon are very, very dangerous in transition. So they have to be very, very wary of that situation when they're with the likes of Brian Mbeumo and the host of others. They are very fast in transition. So the Moroccans, when they are attacking, they have to make sure they respect the opponent because Cameroon have been that country, one of those countries that have beaten the host nation, I think, in the history of the African nations most, 7 times. And if Morocco falls into that trap, it will be the 8th time. For this same Morocco fell to Cameroon in 1988 when Cameroon went on to win the competition.